I rise to speak on Amendment 8 in my name with a heavy heart, in the hope that someone out there is listening, and I declare an interest as per register. My Lords, this review amendment I propose is intended to not simply as an exercise in public service media management, but as a vital contribution to the future well-being of children and young people in this country, to their sense of worth, their understanding, and their place in our society, to their appreciation of the many and varied cultures of our society, and in the final analysis, to the future of public service media as a whole. My Lords, if millions of children and young people are no longer watching the television that is made for them on the PSB channels, crafted, curated, considered age-appropriate and relevant to their lives as British kids, how can we hope that they will suddenly, upon becoming adults, turn to the BBC for their news, or even to other public service providers for information and entertainment, or even programmes for their children? They won't, my Lords. They will have lost the habit of believing that powerful content that offers meaning to their lives as British people is provided for them by public service media. My Lords, I say this because research by the Children's Media Foundation have found this to be the case. As Ofcom statistics prove, the children have migrated away from watching linear television. Many are also unaware of the online platforms provided by the PSB broadcasters, which this bill seeks to bring into public service measurement and regulation. Your Lordships may feel that young children, your grandchildren perhaps, are still watching the dedicated PSB channels like CBeebies and Milkshake. However, that is not the case for children over the age of 7. Many parents will tell you their children are now in the bedrooms using mobile devices, phones, tablets to access their media choices, which opens them up to a world of content offered by YouTube and other providers. On demand, immediate, much of it is loud, frantic and attractive, but little of it made with care, that has been the hallmark of public service television for children since the 1950s. My Lords, I spoke to a head teacher just yesterday who told me many of the children in her school are speaking with American accents because they are being influenced by what they are watching online platforms, which is not age appropriate. My Lords, despite the online safety bill addressing some of the most outrageous harms in these online spaces, nothing is currently done to regulate the spaces for good content, which parents need to feel they can trust. Parents are looking to government to reassure them that this is happening. That is what public service media is about. That it is there to regulate the broadcasters, to ensure that those who have captured the eyes and minds of British children while being allowed to make reasonable return on their investment would always also give something back, something of meaning and purpose. My Lords, this has worked since the 1950s, when commercial television started, was made to work again when cable and satellite channels increased, and can be made to work again in a new public service environment, which will definitely include shared video services such as YouTube, TikTok and others, and that may follow. My Lords, my amendment seeks to start a process where we can investigate the real future of public service broadcasting in this country beyond the confines of the current bill, to have a review. It sets down a marker that like so many countries around the world, we are not prepared to carry on burying our heads in the sand. That we will investigate ways in which these devices can be regulated to offer prominence to public service content. That we will explore the feasibility of levies or incentives to ensure that they share their advertising revenue with producers of content that is relevant and appropriate to local UK, and has the power, as all public service content does, to connect people with the world rather than disconnect them from it. My Lords, all my amendment is asking for is that we explore possible futures and are open to change, because change has already arrived as far as our children and young people are concerned. Young people who in ever greater numbers are watching and being influenced by inappropriate and harmful videos rather than material that speaks to their lives in positive ways. My Lords, it is time for the government and the entire country to wake up to the fact that the algorithms that push this content at our children are not regulated. They work entirely to increase revenue and profit, most of which is not distributed back to the children's content producers. They do not take into account age relevance or the social value of what they push. And until we at least begin to discuss the potential of regulation, they won't. I simply ask the Minister, is that what we want for our children to grow up to? My Lords, supporting this amendment is the start of a new way of thinking about how we care for our children in an increasingly complex media landscape, but a landscape that nonetheless can be shaped to offer benefits and hope, joy and inclusion, if we are prepared to consider how this could be achieved. My Lords, we have lost a generation of children and young people who are not experiencing the high-quality, uplifting and fulfilling content as past generations. They are meandering now online on paths that are not beneficial to their mental and social well-being. So once again, I feel it's my duty to plead with the government, with tears in my eyes, to ask them at this late stage to put children's current viewing habits to the forefront of their decision-making process. That is already and will continue to affect their future. Because as I always say, childhood lasts a lifetime. And I look forward to the Minister hopefully committing to this review and look forward to his response. Yeah.